While my husband was still sick, his relatives cut ties with us the moment I lost my job. I struggled to take care of him. Then out of the blue, his dormant patent sold for millions. After they heard, they couldn't stop calling. When everything started falling apart, it wasn't the sickness that scared me most. It was watching people vanish. One day, the house was full of voices. Cousins stopping by, aunties bringing food, nephews pretending to check in, and the next day it was silent. So quiet you could hear the fridge hum. The silence didn't fall by accident. It happened the day I lost my job. I walked in, told them I'd been let go, and it was like the air shifted. Eyes dropped. Voices tightened. Somebody cleared their throat, and within a week, they had all disappeared. The same folks who swore, family rides together no matter the storm, stopped answering calls, stopped returning texts, stopped pulling up. And just like that, it was me, my sick husband, lying in that back room, and bills piling up like a bad joke. The thing about caregiving is, nobody tells you how lonely it gets. He couldn't walk far without help, couldn't eat without supervision some days, couldn't keep up with the simplest tasks. And it wasn't his fault. Disease doesn't care about pride, but I was the one patching holes, washing, cooking, begging the pharmacy to let me pay late, dodging the landlord's side-eye when rent came in pieces. I sold jewelry I swore I'd keep forever, cashed out retirement savings that weren't supposed to be touched for another 20 years, and still it wasn't enough. Nights I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking, is this how people break? But we kept going. I kept him clean, kept his meds coming, even if it meant eating rice with nothing on it for 3 nights straight. And through it all, the family stayed ghosts. No birthday calls, no how's he doing, nothing. It was almost comical how fast folks can cut you off once you stop being useful. Then one morning, something wild happened. My husband had this patent, right? Some software idea he registered back in his 20s, and we both forgot about it after life got real. It sat dormant for years, collecting dust. Then, out of nowhere, a company came knocking. They wanted it. Not just wanted it enough to pay millions. The lawyer said the words, 7 figures. And my knees buckled. I thought it was a scam at first, one of those emails you delete. But the paperwork was legit. Contracts. Negotiations. Lawyers talking language that sounded like another planet. And just like that, our life changed. Overnight. The money cleared and my phone lit up like New Year's Eve. Cousins who hadn't called in 3 years suddenly remembered my number. Hey, cuz, I was just thinking about y'all. Aunties who ghosted during the hardest hospital stays were suddenly sending voice notes. We miss you. When can we come by? It was funny, in a bitter way, watching love grow back instantly as soon as money entered the picture. But I kept my tone sweet, polite. I didn't show my hand yet. I let them talk, let them spin their little apologies, while inside I thought, you left us to drown, and now you want to eat at our table. The first big test came at a Sunday dinner. I decided to host, partly out of curiosity, partly to prove something to myself. I set the table like a queen. Roast chicken, macaroni bubbling golden, collard greens with turkey tails, cornbread so fluffy it made you want to slap somebody. When they walked in, eyes wide at the spread, I felt this strange power. Here were the same people who couldn't lift a finger when I was pawning my wedding ring to buy medicine, now clapping and hugging like nothing happened. My husband sat at the head of the table, quiet but watching. His illness had slowed him, but his eyes still burned sharp. He didn't need to speak. His silence did enough. I poured drinks, passed plates, listened as they rattled off excuses. We were going through so much ourselves. You know, times were hard. We figured you had it under control. It was laughable, the rehearsed guilt trips wrapped in fake sympathy. I nodded, chewed slowly, gave them nothing but politeness. Because the truth was, I didn't need their validation anymore. The money gave me freedom, yes, but surviving without them gave me clarity. After dinner, one of his brothers pulled me aside. So what's the plan with all that money? He tried to sound casual, but his eyes gave him away. Hungry, desperate. I sipped my drink. The plan is, I take care of my husband. That's the only plan. His lips twitched, but he didn't push further. Another cousin hinted at a business opportunity. Somebody else asked if I'd consider helping with a down payment. It was like watching sharks circle, testing the water. When they left, my husband finally spoke. They didn't come for us. They came for the money. I squeezed his hand. I know. And we both sat in that quiet, letting the truth sink in. The calls didn't stop. If anything, they got louder. Invitations to events, constant check-ins, subtle reminders that we were family. At first I answered politely, then I stopped picking up. I learned peace isn't about blocking people out loud. It's about letting silence answer for you. They got the message eventually. Or maybe they didn't. Didn't matter either way. What mattered was us. With the money, I hired full-time help so I could breathe again. We traveled a little, nothing flashy, just places he'd always wanted to see but never could. Watching him smile in those moments, watching him live again, was worth more than all the millions combined. And me? I learned to laugh again. To eat good meals without guilt. To buy groceries without calculating in my head. To feel human again. But there was still a fire in me, a piece of anger that hadn't burned out yet. Not because they wanted the money. People will always want what shines. What stung was how easily they discarded us when we were at our lowest. That wound doesn't close with apologies. It doesn't close with gifts. It only closes when you accept that family isn't blood. It's who shows up when the world collapses. Months passed, and the story of the money spread like wildfire. People I hadn't spoken to in 20 years were suddenly sliding into my inbox. Strangers claimed long-lost connections. A woman swore she was my husband's cousin's daughter twice removed, talking about how blood is thicker than water. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. Because here's the truth. Blood might be thick, but loyalty is thicker. One day, his relatives tried staging what I can only call an intervention. They showed up uninvited, knocking hard enough to rattle the glass. I opened the door, and there they were, lined up like a choir. His sister stepped forward, holding a casserole dish like peace could be baked at 350 degrees. We just want to be part of the family again. My husband coughed behind me, and I swear the look on his face could have frozen fire. I let them in, because I wanted to hear the performance. They sat in the living room, shifting on the new furniture they probably priced in their heads. They started with tears. We made mistakes. We didn't know how bad it was. Then they shifted to guilt. You know Mama would want us close. Then finally, the pitch. With this blessing, we should all come together, share it, invest it as a family. I leaned back, folded my arms, and let silence stretch until they squirmed. Then I said, clear as day, when I was begging for rent money, where were you? When he was laid up in the hospital, where were you? When I was eating noodles for weeks so he could get medicine, where were you? Nobody answered. Not one. You could hear the clock ticking. So I stood. This house runs on love that doesn't come with conditions. If you couldn't show up broke, you sure don't get to show up rich. That's it. And I walked them out. The fallout was messy. Calls turned nasty. Messages accusing me of being selfish, of hoarding blessings. They even tried rallying neighbors, talking trash at church. But see, when you've lived through real loneliness, gossip feels like background noise. I kept living. My husband kept healing as best he could. And for the first time in years, we had peace. Not because money bought it, but because boundaries did. The sweetest part? Knowing we owed them nothing. Not explanations, not forgiveness, not access. Just distance. And that, more than the millions, was the real gift. Because when people show you who they are in the dark, believe them. And when the light finally shines on you, don't ever dim it to make them comfortable again.